In this episode of Gear Garage, we're going to talk about river knives. And I've done a ton of videos about river knives in the past. I've reviewed a bunch of individual ones. And every time I review a knife, somebody says, oh, cool, you should check out this knife. So then I buy that knife and do a review of it. And through this process of trying out a bunch of different river knives, and I own like 20 of them, I've learned which ones are really good and which ones are really bad. And this video is going to kind of sum a lot of it up and share a lot of my opinions based on my experience. Now, the reason I do these videos is for me to learn. So I get something, I play with it, I learn, and then in the comments, I get ideas and feedback and I get better. So I'm not saying what I'm about to tell you is the answer. I'm saying this is my opinion based on my experience. And if you have better opinions, please type them in the comments. That's how I get better. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be right here because I've been through this so many times, but I'm certainly open to learning more. So here we go. The first thing is I feel like we should all be carrying river knives, except for a handful of people, and you probably all know who those handful of people are. But as guides, as private boaters who are in charge of a craft, around ropes, we should probably have river knives. There are ropes we can get tangled up in. There's things we can get stuck in where a quick handy knife can cut us out of it and save the day. So I think having a river knife is a really good thing. I think the big debate is whether we have an externally mounted one where we can get to it quickly, or one that's in our pocket right here that takes a few more seconds to access. Which one is better, which one's worse? And I have a pretty strong opinion here based on my experience. I'm going to say the internal knife is better. And I'm going to tell you a few reasons why. First of all, this externally mounted knife is getting a lot of times getting in the way of me getting back in my raft. If I'm trying to pull myself in the raft, this will get caught up on the tag line around the boat. It's just more in front of me to pull myself up and over. And so having a knife here is not a great idea. Now some people will say, oh, that's whatever. I put mine here and it's not a problem. My issue with knives here is if you pull it out, you can slice your neck. And like this is a dual-sided knife. Some of them are single-sided, but if they get put in wrong, you can pull it out in a rush and cut your neck. Not something I want. And still, I also don't like just having something here I can hit my chin on all the time. So I don't think this is a good idea either. And some people shove them in their PFDs. That's awesome. The other thing is knives are usually one-sided. Like this one pulls out really nicely here. But if I need to access with my left hand to get it, it's a little more awkward and difficult. Same thing if I have it mounted up on my shoulder. I can get it with my right hand real easy, but with my left hand, it's a bit more awkward to access. And depending on where you put it, some people put it here. You get it with one hand, but not the other. And so I feel like external knives really lean towards one-handed use, where the pocket, now I'm using my left hand this time, I can get to it pretty quickly out of the pocket. And I think that the big thing here is the total amount of time from you needing to cut a rope to having the rope cut. And that combines the time of you accessing your knife added to the time to cut the rope, right? So just because I can get to this one in a second, it doesn't really matter if this knife can't cut rope. So this is an NRS knife. These things are classically terrible. Like they don't cut rope very well. This is a Spider Goat, top of the line, H1 steel. It doesn't even struggle. So if I'm gonna add up the time for me to access this knife and then take 8 cuts, it's probably more than if I have this always in the same place and I practice where I can pull this out with my hand pretty quickly and I practice with it, get it out, take it, and cut the rope. So I'm gonna say I want a sharper knife with a better edge over something quickly accessible. That's my opinion. And I'm gonna say you're gonna want good steel and you're gonna want a full, long, serrated edge. I think that's really the key. Now these NRS knives I'm gonna start talking about, short knife, short serrated edge, and this is made in China. It says China on it, right? This is not good steel. This looks really cool, right? And it's a nice badge of honor. Like, look cool, I have a knife on me. I must be a badass. Like, it sends a message. It's like having an award on you if you're a military general. Like, I have this thing. But functionally, this knife does not cut rope very well. Same thing, this is another NRS knife. It's a really cool thing to access it, but it's awful steel, partial serrated edge. This thing just doesn't cut rope. We're gonna experiment this in a second. There's another knife I've used, this deep sea knife. This thing's worse. Like it has a really cool action to like if it's on your PFD to pull it out, but actually for cutting rope, awful. People have told me about the Imlay EC or EC Imlay knife. This is another cool knife, but if you look at the edge, it's kind of a wimpy edge. It's a cool idea and it's a cool way to connect it, but it's good steel. The steel is good. It's better than the stuff made in China, but it's a really small, like half serrated edge, and it's not that serrated. The external knife I really like, if I had to have one, would be the Bear Claw. This thing cuts rope. This thing is awesome. It's a short serrated edge, but it's a really good serration, and because of the way that it's angled, it rips through rope. So I'm gonna go through some of my favorite knives for internal inside my PFD. This Atlantic Salt 2 by Spyderco is the bomb. 100 something bucks. It's expensive. The Gerber Easy Out Rescue Knife. It's like 50 bucks. Solid. Full serrated edge. The serrated edge on the Spyderco was a little more aggressive. So this is better steel, but it has better serrations for cutting rope than this one does. But this one's solid. You can't go wrong. I totally approve the Gerber one. Spyderco makes the Bird Rescue 2, which is a little less expensive, and I don't know, I think it's like 50 bucks as well. Big, long, serrated edge, you know, just rips through rope. Not as good as this is their version. I think this is made in China as well. This is better steel. This is made in Japan, but it's way better than NRS knives. And there's this other Spyderco knife, the Bird Rescue 2. See, this one is they're both Bird Rescue 2s. This one's just a little smaller. Again, a sweet knife. So I'm gonna approve these Bird Rescue 2s, the Gerber Easy Out Rescue Knife, and what's the other one I have here? And the Spyderco Atlantic Salt, or some just awesome Spyderco with a full serrated edge. I'm also gonna approve the Bear Claw. It's a good knife, and as you're gonna see, this Imlay EC Imlay knife is not that great. This external knife. These NRS knives, not so good. And the squeezy knife, I think even Stolquist sold this for a while, is terrible. So we're gonna do a couple tests. If you wanna stick around for the tests. I have some used rope. Now, used rope cuts differently than brand new rope. So if it's a little dirty, it's harder to cut. So this is a little harder to cut. I have some like pretty easy to cut rope, and then some harder to cut rope. And we're just gonna run through this real quick. We'll start with, why don't we just start with this bad boy. I'm gonna go through one at a time. I'm gonna try to cut it with the NRS knife. I can't remember which one this is. It's one of them. I think I already tried to cut with this one. It has like 4 or 5 thingamabobbers to cut it. Not bad. We'll try this NRS one. The problem with this is this partial serrated edge. It's only serrated. It's only cutting the first half of it, and it's already a short knife, and it's not that great of steel. Whatever that was, like 8 cuts. This one that people used to love and still have. I'm not even sure I'll cut this, honestly. This one is worse than the NRS knives. It's an embarrassment that people have this. And if you have one, I'm sorry. Like, please take it off your PFD. The thing is, if you take this one off your PFD, this was really invented as a diving knife. And you really don't have any uses for it. It's kind of like trash, where... I mean, this isn't gonna... I mean, let me switch sides. Let me see if I can get this. This one is just awful, right? These knives the NRS makes, they put a bottle opener on them, which to me is really ridiculous, right? Like, it's kind of an insult to safety that they're throwing a bottle opener on. And NRS is promoting this drinking culture in the industry, which is already terrible. But the good news is, if you take this off your PFD, you don't have to throw it away. You can take it to your kitchen, you have a bottle knife, and this thing can also spread peanut butter. So this still is a bottle opener. It's not a total waste of money. And they're not that expensive, so whatever. It's like a $35 bottle opener. Where this one is just straight up garbage. Like, take it to a dive shop and give it to them. It's not that great. The EC Imlay, this one is, I think we already did this one. It's rough. Cutting rope with this one is rough. It's short. Oh, I got it in 3 cuts. So that's not bad. I mean, it's good steel. It's stainless steel. It's just a really weak edge. And then the Bear Claw is probably going to rip through this. A little harder than I thought. Bear Claws usually do a little better. But the Bear Claw didn't have a problem. I'm not even sure if I need to try with the Spyderco. That was like effortless. And this is the cheaper one, the Bird Rescue 2. This is the cheaper Spyderco. It's the version that's made in China. That wasn't even an issue. This is the big bad boy. No problem. And then the Gerber Easy At Rescue Knife. I love this knife. It's a great knife for the price. Again, no problem. So that was a good first test. This is harder to cut rope. And this is where we're really going to see the differences. Let's take this end rest knife and see what we can do. I don't know if we're going to get very far. This is kind of like static line. Let's see what this end rest knife can do. That's not bad. This one actually wasn't. That's actually surprisingly good. We'll take this end rest knife. Not bad. It's making some things happen. It's amazing how that other knife does cut better than this one, and they seem to be the same. This is the one, I think this might be the Pilot. This is the one I see more and more. It has a little, like, the lock-in thing. I see more people with this one. And I think this one's the Nemo or something like that. Anyway. You know, they were able to cut it. I'm not even going to bother with this one. If you have this, again, this Stolquist one or this Squeeze one, it's a waste of our time to try to cut this rope with that one. The EC Imlay, I think the serrated edges, that NRS has better, it's only half serrated. So that's the problem. You really want a full serrated edge. For some reason, and oh, whoa, that was impressive. That actually did better than I thought it would do. So it took, what was that, 4 or 5 cuts? So it's not bad. It's probably better. It's better than the NRS one from what we saw. Let's go through the Gerber easy one cut. This is the Rescue Bird, 1 cut. This is the other Rescue Bird, 1 cut. Let's go with the one external knife that I would approve of, the Bear Claw. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, the Bear Claw's struggling for. Yeah, it's a little struggled a bit. I think actually this one did better than the Bear Claw in terms of cutting it. But the Bear Claw, I just like more for a lot of reasons. One unknown thing with the Bear Claw is there's a little screw here, and by unscrewing it, it'll hold on tighter, right? So if you're worried about it coming out, just unscrew that screw a little bit, and it will lock in a little bit better. And then this H1 steel on the Spyderco, whoa. That was just a bad cut. But this one is just a wicked knife. I mean, that took 2 cuts, but normally it just goes through things like butter. This is just a beautiful knife. So I want to kind of sum this up and share my thoughts again. First of all, I know a lot of you want to have external knives because they make you look cool. You find that like you earned it because you like took a class or whatever. And somebody you look up to had one, or some rescue teacher has some really cool knife on the outside their PFD. If you're rocking an NRS knife, in my opinion, if I see people with NRS knives externally, I don't want to say anything, but I'm like, oh, man, it's super frustrating you have that knife. I don't think we should be using these NRS knives at all. Mainly because they don't cut. They can cut, but it's so slow. And those of us that are, and if I'm kayaking, I don't mind an external knife that much, personally. But if I'm rafting, I'm hitting it with my oars as I'm moving. It's hard to pull myself in the boat. It's something to get tangled in. It's just something, but even kayaking, I don't like it. It's something I could run into. I'm super having an internal knife. So these NRS knives, in my opinion, they're only not garbage because you can use them as bottle openers in your kitchen. You know, they're bottle openers, which is controversial anyway. So I wouldn't go with those. This EC Imlay is a cool knife. It did better than I thought in the tests. It has cool attachments. You know, it's not just a simple pull out though. You have to pull this rubberized thing off and then pull it off. And at that point, you might as well have an internal knife, in my opinion. And a lot of you are going to say, hey, Zach, try out this knife, try out that knife. I have like 8 more different knives people have suggested like this. I don't think you're going to find a knife that I haven't tested yet. And if you have, I'll probably buy it. I'll test it. But if it's external, I'm going to tell you, I'm almost positive it's not going to be as good because it can't have this big, long, serrated edge. The Bear Claw, I think, is a good knife, and I really like it, especially putting your finger in there and being able to cut. I think it's a sweet knife. And then any of these fully serrated edge internal knives are going to cut rope way better. It's just what I found. And I think the key, for those of you that are thinking about it, for me with the clamshell pocket, I keep my knife in the same place every time. And so I know, and I'm practiced to where I can close my eyes and do this. I can get right to it with either hand and open it up. It's pretty easy access. So I don't have it like sitting in the bottom or like hidden somewhere. It's always in the same place in all my PFDs. And if I need to access it with either hand, I can, right? If I have, that was my right hand, if I have to use my left hand, I can unzip it, access it pretty quick. For me, the key to that though is I have my zippers always on top here. I don't zip them down here. I don't zip them down there. I always leave them up here so I know how to get to my zipper really fast. So those are my complex, messy thoughts. Hopefully you have some opinion, or I changed your opinion, or you saw something that makes you think a little bit. I think one of the struggles of buying knives, like a lot of things, is you just go buy a knife, or you see somebody wearing a knife and you buy the same one. Nobody actually, well, I have them all. Rarely do people have a bunch of knives and test them all side by side. And so I'm hoping that because I've had to buy so many knives, I can show you these tests of all these things side by side, and you can make a decision on your own. Now, if you watch this and you still think you should have an external knife, cool. At least you understand both sides of the argument, and you've made a decision based on your own needs and expectations and wishes and dreams and all that. And again, like, I have opinion of internal knife based on my own background. Now, if you came to me in the comments and said, well, actually, there's this one time where I saved my life because I had an external knife, I might think about it. It could sway me a little bit. But right now, I just feel that the time it takes to access and cut is way better with knives inside my PFD, because these bad boys cut so much better and faster. So that's it. Thank you all for watching. Please leave comments in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe. I love subscribers. They make me feel super cool. Like the show so people, like, it's a signal YouTube says, oh yeah, cool. That's watchable. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.